Hi everybody, welcome to In Stitches with Mary. I'm Mary and I have some fun Valentine projects I want to show you this month. These are so quick and easy, you're going to put them together in no time and give those to those sweethearts in your life. Our first one is a little Valentine bookmark. Love marks the spot, right? No more dog-earing those books. And our second one are these little treat cones that you can fill up with some sweets for your sweetheart. To make my little Love Marks the Spot bookmark, all you're going to need are 2 squares of fabric for each side of the bookmark, so that's 4 squares. My pattern calls for 4-inch squares. That's being very generous. You could probably get by with 3-inch, but I want to make sure you have plenty. And so you need 4-inch squares of fabric and some fusible webbing such as heat and balm or steam-a-seam. One for each side, so you're going to need 2 squares like that. So to do that, if you're not familiar with using steam-a-seam or heat and bond, what you're going to do is take your piece of heat and bond, and there's a fusible side and then the paper side. You're going to lay this fusible side on the back side of your fabric. Now I would cut that just a hair smaller than your fabric just to protect your ironing board and your iron. And then you're just going to take your hot iron over top of that for like 1 to 2 seconds. Don't overdo it. When that is done, you're going to let it cool a little bit. You're going to peel that backing off and then lay your next piece of fabric right on top and press that in place. Just a couple of seconds. That's all it takes. And now you've got your fabric. I did 2 different sides on this one, and they're fused together. They're not going to come apart, and they're washable. So once you get that done, you'll take the pattern template I have here, and you can draw another one out or cut that off the pattern, and you're going to trace around that heart, okay? And then cut that out. You could lay both of them down together and cut them at the same time, and then you know they're both going to be the same size. So once those are cut out, you've got 2 of them. You need 2 for each. You need 2 for each heart, and you're going to take that to your sewing machine. You need to measure up 1.5 inches from the point of your heart on each side and place a little mark there. Just 1.5 inches up on each side, and we're going to stitch around the top of the heart. Stitch around the top of the heart on both of them. And then when you get done, you'll lay them together, and now you're going to stitch them both together from the mark to the bottom and up. That's going to leave your top open, and it secures that point for the corner on your book. At this point, if you would like, you could take a pinking shears and just do a little pinking around that outside edge. I've done that with some of them here. This one right here, as you can see here. And I think that adds a nice little touch. But I like to do it after I have it all done so that all the edges are the same. And that makes your little bookmark that slides right over the corner of your book, your pages. No more dog-earing those pages, and it sticks in place. So that is a fun little project. Doesn't take any time at all to do. And don't be afraid to try other colors. They don't have to be Valentine colors. You've got some boys in your life that like to read. By all means, go ahead and change up those colors. Here's another quick little Valentine project that you can give those sweethearts in your life. I call these my little sweetheart treat cones. You can fill these up with some little goodies and hand those out on Valentine's Day. To make the little treat cone, you're going to need 2 pieces of fabric, about 6 inches square, and some trim and a little handle. Trim rickrack, ribbon, whatever you would like. The 2 pieces of fabric, you're going to take the template that does come with the patterns. Now the patterns are available right here at Neil's. And you're going to trace those and cut those out. You're also going to need to apply an interfacing to the back side. Any kind of medium weight interfacing will be just fine. I have experimented with some different ones and they all work. I've even used some fusible fleece on the back, and it will not matter. Use up what you might have at home already. So fuse that to the back side. And if you noticed, I made mine just a little bit smaller. The interfacing is just a little bit smaller around those outside edges. Again, it reduces some of the bulk when we're sewing our seams, and it protects your iron and ironing board. The next thing you'll want to do is decide what's your outer and what's your inner part of the cone. I'm going to make this my lining, so this is going to be my outside. At this point, we're going to apply our trim. Now this is optional. You don't need to do that. I've done it without, but now would be the time to apply that trim. And this is you're just going to sew this right along this outside curve portion right here. Give yourself a good 9 inches, 10 inches, and then you can trim off the extra. I've placed some marks. If you'll notice on our template, I have a handle placement mark. And at this point, once this is sewn on, we're going to apply our handle. So let me show you. I've got one done here, and I put my little clips right there where the handle's going to go and where my marking. So we're just going to place this right on top and hold that in place. At this point, you can base those in place if you want to, or just go ahead and lay your lining down on top, and we're going to stitch this seam here 1/4 inch. So it's a 1/4 inch seam along just the curved edge. When you get that done, okay, it's going to be like this. I take this to the ironing board and I press the seam towards the lining, and it's optional. I do like how it lays better. I did a little bit of an understitch, and if we can get a close-up, I'll show you right here. I understitched right along that folded edge where the seam would have been, holding down the back seam as well. So then later on, when we do turn this inside out, that lining lays to the back just perfectly. Okay? So that is optional. If that's a little too difficult for you to do, don't worry about it. Don't fuss over it. The next step, now that we have this all put together, is to just fold this in half lengthwise. You're going to want to pin this so that your seam matches perfectly. Okay? And we're going to stitch from point to point. You do need to leave an opening in the lining so that you can turn this inside out. I have this one already done, and what I want you to do is start at this end and do your 1/4 inch stitch. Now when you get to the seam, I want you to start making just a little bit of a wider seam, maybe up to a 3/8 inch, because that's going to make our lining just a hair smaller, and it does make it fit inside our cone a lot easier. Come down about 1 inch from that seam and stop, do a little back stitch, and then come down about 1 inch from our point and do a little back stitch and stitch to the point. That's going to leave us our opening for turning this inside out. Before you turn it inside out, let's do a little finger press and see what we can do about pressing those seams open. It will make things lay nicer later on. I would not try to take this to the ironing board and try to press that. You're going to get creases in your cone you don't want. So we're just going to do a little bit of a finger press open. If you want, you could take one edge here on your cone and just press that seam back, because that's where we're going to hand stitch that opening shut, and it does make that a little bit easier. Trim your points, and then you're going to turn it inside out. And then it's going to you're going to be something like this. Here's our little opening. At this point, notice the little trim I have here, it's a little bit different. You can just, there's our opening. I would hand stitch this shut at this point, tuck it back down inside, use your handy point turner, push that down in, and you're ready to fill this up. Isn't that darling? I think these are so cute. Fill them up with some fun candy. Here's another one I have done. Again, if you don't want to do the trim, here's one without. Whoop. and have fun handing those out on Valentine's Day. Thank you for joining me. If you've enjoyed these projects for Valentine's Day, the patterns are available right here at Neil's. You'll get both of these for just $5. Give us a call.